Well, this is like a Western shoot 'em up.
It is. Now, it's interesting you bring that up because Ben Wheatley, that's the director, his first reference point for this film is Westerns and High Noon. And
I think the first thing he said about getting the script and seeing our names and going, oh, and then reading and going, it's my Western. Like he immediately was like, he didn't need to hard sell us. We needed to hard sell him. Within 30 seconds of that Zoom, we were like, yeah, let's go do this, you know?
Yes. So these guys, Derek and Ben, you know, they know movies better than I do, and they reference movies like Bad Day at Black Rock. Do you know that film? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Westerns. Of course, I know High Plains Drifter, the Clint Eastwood film, and there are some similarities here with that film in that, if you remember High Plains Drifter,
Foggy.
it's the one where the whole town has to help him.
Okay.
But they resent him, but then they need his help, and then he puts them to work.
Well, everybody's all in on this.
Yeah, they are.
Normal.
Yeah, they are. But their allegiances shift. First one way, then another way.
You don't know it.
It really goes so many directions, as you know. You've seen it. The town of Normal is not normal, but the way in which it's not normal is hard to figure out until the big secret is revealed. But I'm not going to reveal it.
No, we're not going to reveal the secret.
Honestly, in the best Westerns and the best noir, it's always that you're introduced to good guy, bad guy. But then there's that element of worst guy. And that's what we did here. And a lot of the humor is just found in that.
Yeah.
But a lot of the bad guys are really good guys, and a lot of the good guys are really bad guys.
Yeah.
That's right. It switches. It switches a couple times within the film. And it's one of the fun things about this movie, and I think a difference between this film and a lot of action films.
One of the things about this that I almost felt guilty watching this choreographed ballet of death.
Yes.
And seeing all of these guys get blown away and laughing at it.
I don't know how many action films you've seen or how many horror films you've seen. But see, I don't know many of them. But a lot of the comical violence is very common with, horror films of nowadays.
Absolutely.
I did see Weapons, and so I have seen this vibe. But Derek and Ben, our director, they are well schooled in the humorous murder of on-screen characters.
Were there any scenes where you were in the middle of it, of a really
bloody,
and you were laughing?
Sure. I mean, it's all fake blood, so it's all fun. I'm doing the fighting, so yeah, I'm doing it.
There were a couple of times where I'm with Ben at the monitors, and we'll do a scene that's scripted, and we're watching, and we're like, ooh, that's a bit much. And then
we had to pull back.
But then, like, Bob came up with an idea in the hardware scene that it caps off with an exclamation point that's funny and brutal, and kind of just threading that needle.
I fixed a problem.
What is wrong with you people?
That was too violent.
Yeah.
And I made it more comical. And, I'm very sensitive to this stuff. Because, again, I'm not so well schooled. And you've probably seen more horror films than I have. You guys see a lot of movies, huh?
A lot.
Yeah.
So you've seen all this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's kind of new to me. My daughter watches those films.
I don't watch as many as kids watch today. That's the thing now.
It is. It's very, very popular now.
I have to ask, was there a statement? I took it as a statement about Americans and guns, especially in the bar with all the guns on the walls. Are these loaded? So would it be any fun if they're not?
I don't think the movie makes too many clear statements about any political points of view. It does toss a lot into the hopper for you to look at and think about and talk about and consider. There are a lot of guns in this movie, and we use all of them.
Yeah, the joke was Chekhov's guns.
Yeah.
Well, in these scenes where you're blasting everybody
Yeah.
and going from place to place, and
Yeah.
they're long choreographed scenes.
Yes.
How long was the longest, and how did you break it up?
You'd be surprised. I think that the hardware store is the most important fight is the kitchen fight at the end.
Yeah.
It is split up with the action that's taking place in the restaurant, and that action is very like John Woo, high concept, amplified characters and movement and behaviors, and then our fight. That, I don't know, maybe that's the longest fight, the kitchen fight. And I love doing that stuff. In Nobody, it's my favorite thing. The bus fight that I did in Nobody Won,
Right.
the kitchen fight in Normal. These are where I feel like I'm engaged. I can help. I understand it because it's a little bit like a comedy sketch, which is what I spent most of my life doing, is writing comedy. I wrote comedy. That's all I did for 25 years. Until I got hired on Breaking Bad, I was a comedy writer. And so I understand those sequences, and I can help, and I can participate in the creation of those sequences because it is so tied into the structure of a comedy sketch where you have a simple scenario, a couple elements, and you sort of establish the game of the sketch, the core joke, or in this case, the core tension of the fight, and you know, and the audience knows that you have this environment to do the fight in, and you can use those elements, and then trying to be clever with that, with those limited choices.
Did you write any jokes into the script?
I did, and I always have humor in everything I write. But in working with Bob, I taught him a lot about the action horror world, and he continues to teach me about comedy. And the two meet, and he often says that an action scene is like a comedy sketch. It's the same length. It's got 3x structure. It's got all that kind of stuff. And so when that conversation happens, you just drafting off of each other. And I was surprised at a couple of times going, I can do that element. But more importantly, we played the whole movie straight, and the idea being is if you don't care about the character, you're doing it wrong. And once the action world build comes in, it's just a blast, man.
When I kick a head of cabbage into the bad guy's head, I mean, you can only laugh.
Well, you're finding that the comic beats of a sketch follows the beats of an action sequence. Knowing that now, more comedians will make great action stars.
I think they would, but they got to be willing to train, because the truth is, I'm on screen when I'm fighting. You're not cutting to my arms and it's really a stunt man. I do the fighting, and that's because I train, and the training has been really fun too, to be honest with you. It's a lot, but it's fun.
I have to say I've developed a fondness for the knitting lady.
Oh.
And
Do you
that
like
was
that
a
she has a
nice
police? Do you like that
surprise.
she has a police
Yeah.
radio in her knitting store
She
and
had a
she's
police
listening
scanner.
in? You had one, a scanner?
I used to work news. Yeah, and
You don't run a knitting store. You work
No.
news. You had a reason.
I was doing while I was baking brownies, which you're about to get.
Oh,
Nice.
fantastic! That's great.
Kind of a nitty-gritty question. I loved Sheriff Mike's, Deputy Mike's jacket.
Yeah.
The sound.
The sound.
Now, speaking of horror movies, Billy Friedkin once told me that he used a wallet to create the creaking sound of the head
Nice.
turning around.
What?
Yes.
Do you know what created the sound of, what they used for the sound of his jacket?
Ben probably came up with something cool. I don't know. Do you know?
I wish I knew. Now I have a question for the director.
I'd love to
Because
know.
isn't it great?
Yeah.
And you know what's great about that is it's very early in the movie. It's a small thing.
Very
It's
subtle.
A very subtle thing.
Very subtle.
But
Is that you, Mike?
You just know, is that happening? Is his jacket making that much noise?
And it's going to be annoying.
But if you ever had a new leather jacket that was stiff like that, they're creaky.